Okay, so once again, our topic for today is about statistical data analysis or statistical data and analysis. No, so statistics is basically a science that involves data collection, data interpretation, and finally data validation. So statistical data analysis is a procedure of performing various statistical operations. So it is a kind of quantitative research which seeks to quantify the data and typically applies any form of statistical analysis. So quantitative data basically involves descriptive data such as survey data and observational data. So statistical data gathering generally involves some form of statistical tools which a layman cannot perform without having any statistical knowledge. No? There are various software packages to perform statistical data analysis. This software includes like a statistical analysis system, statistical package for social science, StatSoft, and others. Okay, to give us more detail about the topic, let us all welcome our presenter. Go ahead, ma'am.
Good morning, Doc and class. I will go to discuss the last part of the research methodology, which is the statistical analysis of data. In this lesson, you will be able to learn the definition of statistics and statistical analysis, data analysis was qualitative and quantitative data, and how to choose the right statistical method. As I said a while ago, statistical analysis of data is the last part of the research methodology. We then learned the first four parts of this chapter, which is the research design, participants or respondents of the study, data gathering instruments, and data gathering procedures. Now, I will go to discuss the statistical analysis of data. First, i-recap lang natin ano nga ba ang statistics. Statistics is a branch of mathematics dealing with the collection, analysis, interpretation, and presentation of masses of numerical data to help in making more effective decisions. Ang statistical analysis naman is implemented to manipulate, summarize, and investigate data so that useful decision-making information results are obtained. Dito po ilalagay lahat ng relevant formulas and interpretation ng data. And baka based sa research objective and statement of the problem ng step. Here are some ways to write this part sa research paper step. First, magkakaroon tayo ng introductory statement which describes the status of the data gathered, how we organize, and what we are planning to implement or use to process this. Ang introductory statement is dapat brief lang and direct to the point. Second, ipe-present sa part na to yung mga statistical formulas na gagamitin including the level or description ng mga variables. Lastly, if gagamit tayo ng table, kailangan ay lagyan ng verbal interpretation ng value like yung mga scores or numeric rating. Ito po yung example ng statistical statement of data or data analysis na ilalagay po natin dun sa part na yun. So first, ito po yung introductory statement natin, briefly and direct to the point. Second, dito naman, ang statistical formulas na ginamit is simple percentage and weighted mean. Nilagay dyan yung description ng formulas and variables or legends na gagamitin. Dyan naman sa part na to, pwede maglagay ng table na gagamitin pero dapat sa right part may verbal interpretation ng value. So, dyan sa example ko, 2.6 hanggang 3, so always. 2.20 to 2.59 with uptime, and so on. So, bago tayo mag-proceed sa data analysis, dapat alam natin if qualitative or quantitative ba ang research natin. So, what is qualitative research? Qualitative research involves collecting and analyzing non-numerical data. So, for example, text, video, or audio. To understand concepts, opinions, or experiences. So, some examples are how do children and adults interpret LPTC in the language? Then, what factors influence employee retention in a large organization? Then, how is on-site experience around the world? And what is quantitative research naman? So, quantitative research is the process of collecting and analyzing numerical data. It can be used to find patterns and algorithms, make predictions, test causal relationships, and generalize results to wider population. So, example naman ito is how has the average temperature changed globally over the last century? Does environmental pollution affect the prevalence of honeybees? Then another example is, does working from home increase productivity for people with long commutes? In short, when we are collecting data, quantitative deals with numbers and graphs, while qualitative deals with words and images. So another term to distinguish the qualitative and quantitative. So, sa quantitative, focuses on testing theories and hypotheses. Sa qualitative, focusing on exploring ideas and formulating theory or hypothesis. Quantitative, analyze through math and statistical analysis. Sa kabila naman po, analyze by summarizing, categorizing, and interpreting. Quantitative po, mainly expressed in numbers, graphs, and tables. Qualitative, in words. Sa quantitative, requires many respondents. Qualitative naman po, few respondents. So, sa pagdating naman sa question, quantitative, closed question siya. Then, qualitative naman, open-ended question. So, sa key terms naman po nila, the quantitative is testing, measurement, objectivity, replicability. Then, the qualitative naman is understanding, context, complexity, and subjectivity. Ayan, meron din kung tinatawag na mixed method research. So, ang mixed method research combines elements of quantitative research and qualitative research in order to answer your research question. Mixed methods can help to give a more complete picture than a standalone quantitative or qualitative analysis, as it integrates benefits of both methods. So, ang some example po niyan, una, how do student perception their school environment relate to differences in test scores? Then, how do interviews about job satisfaction at company X help explain year-over-year sales performance and other KPIs? Then, another example is how do average hospital salary measurements over time help to explain nurses' testimonials about job satisfaction? So, if makikita nyo po sa mga examples, meron both na quantitative and qualitative kaya tinawag ng mixed method. I will now discuss the data analysis. So, first, the qualitative research muna. So, una, prepare and organize your data. This may mean transcribing interviews or typing up field notes. Second, review and explore your data. Examine the data for patterns or repeated ideas that emerge. develop a data coding system. So based on your initial ideas, establish a set of codes that you can apply to categorize your data. So fourth naman, assign codes to the data. So for example, in qualitative survey analysis, this meaning going through each participant's responses and tagging them with codes in a spreadsheet. As you go through your data, you can create new codes to add to your system if necessary. So lastly, identify recurring themes. So link codes together into cohesive overarching themes. Kasi qualitative researchers consider themselves instruments in research because lahat ng observations, interpretations, and analysis are filtered through own personal lens. So sa pagsusulat ng methodology for qualitative research, important na mag-reflect sa pipiliin na approach and same din sa example ko kanina na need i-explain or i-describe ang napiling method or approach in collecting and analyzing data. Ito po yung ibang approach to analyze qualitative data. So although this method shares similar processes, they emphasize different concepts. So unang approach is content analysis. So when to use? To describe and categorize common words, phrases, and ideas in qualitative data. So for example, a market researcher should perform content analysis to find out what kind of language is used in description of therapeutic acts. The next approach is thematic analysis. So when to use? To identify and interpret patterns and themes in qualitative data. So for example, as a psychologist could apply thematic analysis to travel blogs to explore how tourism shapes self-identity. Then sa textual analysis naman, it used to examine the content, structure, and design. So, for example, a media researcher could use textual analysis to understand how news coverage of celebrities has changed in the past decade. So, sa discourse analysis naman, it is used to study communication and how language is used to achieve effect. So, for example, a political scientist should use discourse analysis to study how politicians generate trust in election campaigns. So, in quantitative data naman, once data is collected, you may need to process it before it can be analyzed. So, for example, the survey and test data may need to be transformed from words to numbers. Then you can use the statistical analysis to answer the research questions. So I will now discuss how to choose the most appropriate test for quantitative research. So first, your question. So kung i-check mo yung comparison nila if hinahanap po ba yung difference or relationship or nag-check ka lang ng relationship. So second, the scale of your data. Continuous ba, ordinal, or nominal. Third, yung assumptions or parametric test. So, check mo yung normality niya. Then fourth naman is an experimental design. Paired ba or unpaired yung design? Then the last is number of groups. So, isa lang ba to? Two or more? Or more than two. Then, iisa-isayin po natin yung So first, magbabase tayo sa statement of the problem. Research mo. Okay. Ano yung hinahanap natin? Difference ba ng variables or relationship? So, state in yung example. So, pag magko-comparing ka ng difference, ang example niyan is what is the difference between fertilizer A and fertilizer B in terms of plant growth? Then, pag magko-compare ka naman ng relationship, ang example dyan ng statement of the problem is, does the amount of fertilizer have an effect on plant growth? So, yan. So, check yun yung mga example. So, second naman, yung skill ng data natin. Ito ba is continuous, ordinal, or nominal? So, yung nominal, ito yung data that fits in categories with no order. So, for example, fertilizer A or fertilizer B. Then, si ordinal naman, categories that have an order. Yung Likert scale. So, katulad good, better, best, or mag-scale ka ng 1 to 10. So, ganun. Then, si continuous naman, or yung tawag na ratio is as above, but double the value means twice as much and zero means absent the value. So, example niyan is yung height ng plant. So, sa interval naman, difference between points is equal with no 0 point. So, example niyan is yung temperature. So, third, check the assumptions for parametric test. If yes, papasok siya sa parametric test. If no naman, non-parametric test siya. Non-parametric siya. So, ito yung mga assumptions for parametric test. So, una, the data is continuous or interval. Then, the selected population is representative of general population. Then, the populations are normally distributed. So, pag yes yung lahat, parametric siya. Pero pag may hindi dyan, it's non-parametric yung gagawin. So, here are the examples for parametric and non-parametric test. So, example, the parametric test, simple t-test, paired sample t-test, unpaired sample t-test, one fractional ANOVA, repeated fractional ANOVA, Pearson correlation. Then, sa non-parametric test naman, will cause one test or one sample, will cause one test, monthly PU test, Pascal Wallis test, Friedman test, Spearman correlation. So actually, madami pong test meron ang statistical analysis. We can explain it one by one and achieve how to use it dahil malawak ang coverage ng statistics. So we are needing right now is to choose the perfect or appropriate test na magagamit natin for our research study. So the fourth step is the experimental design. Paired ba or unpaired? So, yung paired means that both samples consist of the same test subject. It is also called as before and after testing. So, for example, all 10 plants is receiving both fertilizer A in week 1 and fertilizer B naman in week 2. The plants are dependent or paired study design. Kapag ganon. Unpaired naman means that both samples consist of distinct test subjects. So, for example, assign 5 plants to receive fertilizer A and yung 5 plants naman to receive fertilizer B. The plants in the two groups are independent or an unpaired study design. Then, ito naman po yung example ng test for corresponding design. So, yan, pagka parametric yung test, so, pag continuous, tapos parametric pa siya, pag under siya ng paired, ang gagamitin na test is paired test. Pag unpaired naman, unpaired test. Then, dito naman sa ordinal, pag paired siya, will cause some sign, graph, rank, or sign test. Then, pag unpaired naman, W. Then, pag nominal naman, whether difference or relationship yung kinukuha natin. Pag paired, McNemar. Then, pag unpaired naman, chi-squared. Then, Ayan po. Lastly, the number of groups. So, kung nakita naman natin siya, katulad yung sa example sa baba, paired set. Pag one lang yung ano natin, yung variable, is paired set na gagamitin. Pero pag more than two groups, repeated measures ANOVA na. Dito naman sa unpaired, pag more than two groups yung ano natin, variable, so one-way ANOVA yung gagamitin natin. So dito naman sa under ng ordinal, kapag more than two groups, Friedman naman yung gagamitin. Then sa unpaired naman, Kruskal-Wallis. Then dito naman sa nominal, kapag more than two groups siya is Stock-Franz-Student. So, yung pi squared is pwede siya kahit more than two groups. Kaya wala na siyang under. Then, under naman na relationship, pag nominal, same pa rin siya. Then, continuous naman, pag continuous siya, so, check yung assumption, kung yung assumption ba niya for parametrics is doon. Pag yes, Pearson correlation or linear regression gamitin. Kapag no naman, is Spearman correlation. So, pag ordinal yun yung relationship, Spearman correlation. So, yeah. I will give one example in appropriate. So, one would like to test the effect of a certain fertilizer for the growth of plants. So, ayan po yung mga plots na nagiging. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, 8 po yung, yung gagamitin. So next, since the plants are of different sizes, one decides to pair the plants according to their conditions and size. So yan po, pinagparas-paras natin sila according to size and condition. So yung isa medyo so one of the plants in the pairs is then given the fertilizer. The effect of the fertilizer is determined based on a number of factors that is summarized in a scale from 1 to 10. So, yan, yung bawat isa po sa pares, yun lang yung bibigyan ng fertilizer and scale. In this case, we like to compare the difference between untreated and treated plants. So, una, yung statement of the problem natin is yung kino-compare natin is different. So, diba una, i-check natin yung statement of the problem if yung relationship ba yung hanapin natin o yung different. Dito, the statement of the problem nila is different. Then second, ang measurement na ginamit to determine the growth of the plant is scaling from 1 to 10. So where 1 represents no growth and 10 represents maximum growth. So therefore, we have ordinal scale. So ordinal yung ginamit natin dito. So third, dahil ordinal, there are no parameter assumptions. So no agad yun. Direct na agad. Then fourth, gumamit din tayo ng paired study design. Then para sila. Then lastly, number of groups. So, dalawang groups yun. Isang may fertilizer, isang binili ng fertilizer, isang hindi. So, yan po. So, ipapasok natin sa ginawa natin ito. Since our measured variable is an ordinal scale and the study design is paired, we use a sign test because Wilcoxon sign drum test requires a continuous scale. So again, there are lots of statistical tests, pero here are the most common na ginagamit na tests to analyze research studies. Here are the references in my report. And so, thank you po.